Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steel City Podcast on Anchor. Just some quick things about this podcast. We're going to talk all sports, all Pittsburgh sports. And we're going to give you hot takes all day long. If you followed me on Sportscaster, you know that something sounds different. You're right. I got a new mic and a new platform to benefit Charlie and I's podcast. So thanks so much for tuning in, and let's get started. Hit the music. And nice to have you guys back with us. So let's get started on our first podcast here on Anchor. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They've just defeated the Bengals 27-3 last night in their game. What are my thoughts about the game? They played good. They played great. The defense really proved why they are top in the league. It seems like all of our playmakers on the edge. Bud Dupree finally did something. Heck, Cameron Hayward finally did something this year. We were waiting for him to have a good game. He had a couple sacks. He seems like he was in the backfield every play. Our secondary played well. Joe Hayden dropped a pick, but we gotta catch those. Didn't he talk earlier about how they've been all staying after practice? Working on catching it, making plays, getting turnovers for the defense. Clearly it isn't working. But other than that, they played perfect. They played well. Linebackers played relatively well. But I if you guys don't know this, but on my Twitter, I rant about Mark Barron every day. I don't like him. I don't know why he's on the team. He came in as a safety, and he's getting beat by Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert should have caught that. It should have been a touchdown. Barron was bailed out. And then they all celebrate like they just got an interception or something. They all put their hands up, running all around, taking pictures. Make a play, and then you can be cocky about it. From now, I'm not sold on Mark Barron. He did have a nice interception at the end of the game, but that didn't really matter. That was more irrelevant than people just playing. Let's talk about Mason Rudolph. As you may know, Ben Roethlisberger went down to a season-ending elbow injury, and Mason Rudolph came in, started last week against 49ers, played relatively well, came in this week for his first home start and played pretty well. If you don't know this, I'm going to say this all the time. Mason Rudolph has to play a little bit above average for the Steelers to win. We've got playmakers. We just got to get in the ball's hands. We arguably have one of the best offensive line groups in the NFL. With Villanueva, Foster, Pouncey, DeCastro, and Filer. Filer's okay. DeCastro's all-pro. Pouncey's a pro bowler. Foster's relatively good. And Villanueva, who's gotten off to a shaky start, is still an all-pro. Remember that. We're getting the ball in the hands of Deontay Johnson. I like it. Rookie out of Toledo. Seems to be taking over the James Washington role that everyone thought it was going to be. Maybe even the Dante Moncrief from this offseason. But, he should be off the team. If he's not even playing, he did dress last night and did get time in garbage time, but if he's not going to dress on a consistent basis, why is he on the team? Why are we paying him $3 million? I don't know. But the coordinators played a really good game. I'm going to start with the defensive side of the ball. Keith Butler, who I rant about all the time. I rant more him than Mark Barron, ladies and gentlemen. More Keith Butler than Mark Barron. And I know you find that hard to believe with this opening segment. But Keith Butler, props to you. You called a heck of a king. Heck of a game. I don't know what a scheme on because I'm not a football football addict, but clearly it worked. Clearly it worked. Do I think he's a long run in the future because of this good game? No, it's the Bengals. But he got the job done and held the Bengals to 3 points with a veteran quarterback, Andy Dalton, who's relatively good. He's not above average. He's not below average. He's just average. Especially at home in that environment. Good plan by Keith Butler. But let's go on to the offense side of the ball. Randy Fichtner probably called one of his best games until when he was in the NFL. He called a heck of a game. He got the playmakers the ball in often and quickly. Juju Smith-Schuster, he got 4 receptions. Not that great. He's our number 1 wide receiver. He's going to get doubled. Guys like Deontay Johnson, Johnny Holton, James Washington, Nick Vannett, all those guys got to step up. Step up. Make a play. You got a second-year quarterback and Mason Rudolph sitting back there begging you to get open so he doesn't get sacked. And we got time, too. Not like Rudolph's running for his life. He's sitting back there in the pocket just chilling. He's chilling. Also, one more thing. I love the Wildcat. I loved it. I didn't like it at first. But it seemed to open up our offense and really gave our offensive line confidence and our running backs confidence. Connor loved the Wildcat. They would put Kirkpatrick in a situation, and it's either going to be an end around or a run right up the gut with Samuels. And they would put Kirkpatrick in that situation to decide, does he want to give up the inside or does he want to give up the outside? Most of the times he's going to give up the inside and go with Connor. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why Jalen Ramsey was the leading rusher on that game. Moving on. What else I saw in the game? With the slow start the Steelers had, they're only 1 game out of first place in the AFC North. Can you guys believe that? I mean, with all this hyped up division, with Baltimore coming back, Lamar Jackson's the truth, Baker Mayfield and his Browns, they got Odell Beckham Jr. and all those guys on their team, all that talent. And then Big Ben coming back. Steelers got all the toxicity out of their locker room. And we're sitting at 1 team 0-4, 1 team 1-3, and 2 teams that are 2-2. The division's not out of reach. Anyone can do it. The Bengals have a chance. They got to win, though. They got to win. All I got to say, they got to win. Teams have to win, especially in AFC North Division football. Steelers took care of business last night. Browns took care of business on Sunday. The Ravens are trending down, ladies and gentlemen. The offense isn't getting as explosive. They're finding an answer to Lamar Jackson. They're finding an answer to Marquise Hollywood Brown. And they're making Lamar throw the ball. He's improved since last season. Seems like last season he could only throw a couple throws. And it was more pound and ground. He is improving, but he's not there yet. The offensive line, they've gotten a lot of hate because, Connor hasn't been getting a lot of holes. But they played relatively well last night. But again, it was the Bengals. Geno Atkins is okay. Rest of their D-line, not that great, to be honest. The corners played pretty good game besides Joe Hayden, like I said earlier. He didn't catch the pick that was right in his hands. But they played well. We're not getting Juju the ball, though. Which I don't understand. The guy had 110 receptions last year. He's a playmaker in space. He's a playmaker. when you get to the ball in his hands, I mean, you have a good chance for it to be 6. You have a good chance, especially over the middle where he's at his best. Get this guy the ball in his hands. I mean, he's not ready to be a number 1 receiver yet. Let's be honest. He's not ready yet. He's not ready. He getting double covered, and he can't get open. He's frustrated now. I don't think he's frustrated because he was on mic'd up last night, and he was thinking about playing Fortnite. Get your mind right, Juju. I mean, I love you. You're the best. Get your mind right. Let's move on to the defense side of the ball. Devin Bush came back to reality last night. We saw what we were going to get from him during the draft process. All those draft analytics saying, oh, he's going to cause havoc all over the field, sideline to sideline, thumper, immediate impact. That's what he did last night. He was all over the sideline. He was disrupting Andy Dalton, and he's an immediate impact. Immediate impact, whether you like it or not. He's still developing, though. He's still 21, excuse me. He's still developing. Also, they're not talking about our secondary, and that's a good thing. Minkah has been playing extremely well. We traded our first-round pick for a reason, to get one of the top up-and-coming safeties. And I'd rather have Minkah Fitzpatrick over a first-round pick this year, let's be honest. When are we going to waste it on? Another Bud Dupree 2.0 who's inconsistent to save his life? I love this trade. I love it. Edmonds, our first-round pick in 2018, is developing, but is getting better and better each week. He's taking on a leadership in this role. He might be calling plays because he's hand signaling all these plays. He's the second-year guy. He's from Virginia Tech, very smart guy. Him and his 2 brothers, excuse me. One Trey is on our practice squad. Trey Edmonds, running back. Tremaine's down there in Buffalo, which they're off to a hot start in 3-1. But Terrell, he's still developing, but he's getting better every week. Also, where the heck is James Washington gone? I mean, it seems like the Deontay Johnson show to me. James Washington doesn't even look like he's on the field that much. He didn't have a catch last night. Johnny Holton's playing in front of you? A guy that didn't make the team during preseason? He didn't make the team. Really? What happened to you being a deep threat? Johnny Holton's playing over you. Obviously, something's not going right in practice. Johnny Holton should be playing over you. It's just a thought, James. Let's talk about Deontay Johnson. I love him. Up through the draft process, I've been looking at his highlights because I'm a draft nut, if you guys don't know that. Wait till it gets to the end of football season and all the mock drafts coming over. I'll have many podcasts about that. It's the Deontay Johnson show. I'm very impressed with him. But when he was coming through the draft process, I saw a guy who's probably the best route runner in the draft. And he reminds me of a lot of young Antonio Brown without the attitude. They're from similar schools. They're both punt returners. They're both explosive. They didn't run the fastest at the 40, but they play faster in space. And they're two great route runners. AB's a great route runner. That's what makes him special. His attitude doesn't make him special. His route running does. That's what got him the big bucks. I didn't like the fumble of Deontay Johnson, though. Got to hold on to that football, especially on the first drive. We're going to take a break and then get right into MLB here on the Steel City Podcast. All right, let's switch gears here to the MLB. As you may know, Clint Hurdle was fired from my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm a little disappointed as a Pirates fan. I mean, I didn't expect much this year, but I did expect a fight. And it seemed like they didn't. It seemed like they're giving up. What are they, tanking? Newsflash, people don't tank in the MLB. It's unbelievable what this organization did. They go from 2015 being a wild card home team to 2019 having the fifth worst record in the MLB. They did a good thing, though. They fired Clint Hurdle. Clint is a respectable manager. He took us to the playoffs 3 times, lost all 3 times. Wasn't a World Series manager, but he was consistent. That's step 1. The second step, you may know, fire Ray Searage. His way of pitching is up and in, and it seems like it never works. It seems like there's guys who might be on roids and they might be boosted, but they're just smacking this out of the park. It's not even close. Are you kidding? He has to be fired. The hitting coach is fine. Pirates need to do big things this offseason and maybe even sell the team. I said this to my sportscaster, Mark Cuban. If you're out there ever listening to this, I would love it if Mark Cuban bought the Pirates. If you don't know who Mark Cuban is, he owns Dallas Mavericks, and he's on the famous show Shark Tank. He's a billionaire. He's from Mount Lebanon, where I'm from. It'd be huge for Mark Cuban to buy the Pirates. I'd love it. But let's get into a little MLB playoff predictions. And just so you know, I'm not the biggest baseball guy. I mean, I know my Pirates, but I don't pay attention to the whole league like I do for football. So bear with me here. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But I'm going from what I see. And I'm seeing the Oakland A's over the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't really have a lot of explanation for these. I think Matt Chapman and Matt Olson will play well. And I just take the A's experience over the Rays and their young team. We're going to go by American League and National League here. So I have Houston over the A's. Houston acquired Zach Greinke, top pitcher in the league. They went all in for this year for pitching. They got maybe the 3 best pitchers in the entire baseball league, and Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and Zach Greinke. But that's going to leave us for the Twins and the Yankees. The Yankees, there's a lot of question marks for them coming in this year. They're hitting there with Judge and all those guys. I don't need to go into much explanation here. But their pitching is not there. And I think that will hold them back. The Twins are really hot coming into the playoffs. And I think the thing about the MLB playoffs is any team can go hot. You saw it a couple years ago. 2 wildcard teams in 2014 were in the World Series. It was the Giants who beat the Pirates, and it was the Royals who came back against the A's. It's not about who has the most talent. It's about who's hot at the right time. And the Twins are sure hot. They're hot right now. So I'm picking the Twins to upset the Yankees and move on. That will leave us with the Astros and Twins to go to the World Series. And I'm picking the Houston Astros. I think Greinke will put them over the top with Springer and Correa in the bat. Altuve, of course. Gurriel will be smoking the ball this postseason. And I think the Astros will be too much. And I think the Cinderella run for the Twins will come short just going into the World Series. Let's move on to the NL. I think the Brewers will win over the Nats. If I'm not mistaken, the Brewers have won 19 out of 21. 19 out of 21. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Like I said earlier, it's about what team is hot, and the Brewers are hot. They just won 19 out of 21. That's dang impressive if you ask me. Dang impressive. The Nats, the Nationals organizations, they never do anything in the playoffs. They never win. Why do you think Bryce Harper left? It's not because he didn't like the team. I'm sure he liked the team fine. It's just he wants to win. I don't know if Philly was the best choice for him. Philly's not in the playoffs. They were the most hyped up team coming in. Oh, Harper's going to put us over the hump, and it didn't happen. Luckily, he got 10 years with them left, maybe in 13. Is that Machado's contract? I don't know. I'd have to Google that. But yeah, I'm taking the Brewers over the Nats, even with Christian Yelich out. That's how impressed I am with these Brewers. And I'm taking the Braves over the Cardinals. Ronald Acuna and Freddie Freeman have lead this Braves team to a division winner, and I think they're going to continue this in the playoffs. The Cardinals, I don't know too much about them, but I think the Braves will win. I think Acuna and Freeman will be too much talent, and Mike Soroka on the mound will be too much for this Cardinals team to handle. Next, we have the Brewers and Dodgers. I'm taking the Brewers. I'm taking the hot hand. Call me crazy, because they may get out versus the Nationals. But I'm taking the hot hand, and I'm taking the Milwaukee Brewers to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you ask why, and I'm going to explain it. The Dodgers have bats. They'll always be a playoff team because they have so much money to spend. Their bullpen is the issue. You got Jansen and Julio Urias, and then their bullpen is, I'm blanking after that. Maybe Pedro Baez if you want to throw them in there. They have starters. They got Buehler, Rich Hill, Kershaw, all those guys. But it's got to come down to the relief pitchers, especially in playoff baseball. A lot of these games will go to extra innings, as you may have noticed. They got an 18-inning win last year in the World Series versus the Red Sox. They needed all their pitchers back then, and they don't got great ones this year. The Dodgers were a tad bit close to getting Felipe Vasquez, who's now in jail. A tad bit close to getting him. A tad bit. They wouldn't give up their top prospects in Gavin Lux and Dustin May. It would have put them over the hump because Felipe is a great pitcher, but he's a horrible person. He's a horrible person, and I don't want to talk about him. It's disgusting what that man did. It's horrible. But I'm taking the Brewers to win over the Dodgers. I think the Brewers will be too hot coming out of that wild card win, and I think they'll beat the Dodgers. I have the Cinderella run coming down again. I have the Braves beating the Brewers. Mike Soroka will be key in that game. Mark Melancon, Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna, all those guys for the Braves that I'm blanking on. So I think the Braves will be too much for the Brewers, and the Cinderella run 2.0 will come to an end. The World Series, that leaves us with the Braves and Astros. And I think that Houston Astros will be your 2019 World Series championship. I think the Astros will win in 5 games. I think they'll win the first 2. They'll lose the 3rd game. They'll win the 4th. They'll win the 5th. I think their pitching's too good. Because you can throw anyone out there. You could throw Cole out there game 1. You could throw Verlander. You go Cole, Verlander, Greinke, and they could win the first 3 games easily like that. Even Lance McCullers. I don't know if he's healthy, though. Don't fact check me on this one. But I think the Astros pitching is too good, and I think their hitting will be up to par. And I think they'll win in a 5-game series. So your Houston Astros, in my opinion, will be the 2019 World Series championship. The wild card games start, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Tuesday makes it tonight. Let's look this up. Don't point finger at me if I'm mistaken, but let's look. Nonetheless, the point here, I can find it. It's October 2nd for the first game. Oh, October 1st. There's a game tonight. Sweet. So we're going to watch the Brewers. Hopefully, I'm right. That game is at 8 o'clock. It's the Brewers at the Nationals. So Max Scherzer will be starting against Brandon Woodruff. And it's going to be a good game. Hopefully, my pick, the Brewers, come out with the victory, though. Nonetheless, let's move on to our next topic here. And it's going to be college football. Let's preview Michigan football and their beef of their schedule coming up. As you may know, I'm a Michigan fan. I love all Michigan sports. Very high on Michigan this year. A little disappointed. But I'm going to tell you why they can and could get hot and maybe make a run to these playoffs. I don't think they'll beat Ohio State, though. Let's be honest. I don't think they'll beat them. Ohio State's too talented. Michigan just beat Rutgers 52-0 on Saturday, as you may know. I think we have a good team. We have a good team. It's still underdeveloped. We still got juniors coming in. But we have a veteran offense with all those offensive linemen returning. Freshman running back who looks phenomenal, and Zach Charbonnet. Shea Patterson may get his groove back. We have three of the best receivers in the country. We're still trying to find our identity, though. We're still trying to find it. We're still trying to find it. Michigan could easily run the table and win out all of their games up until Ohio State. It would be hard, but we are capable. We have a great defense. We have one of the best defense coordinators in college football, who I'm going to get to a little bit. We have potential to be an explosive offense with 35-year-old new offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, who came from Alabama as a quarterbacks coach, worked with Tua, Jalen Hurts, and all those guys. Also, you look at the other side of it. It also could be a very disappointing year. And we could win none of those games coming up versus Iowa, Penn State, Notre Dame, all those guys. We could win none. We could win none. And I don't know about you guys, but people have been so critical on the Michigan head coach, John Harbaugh. And I think it's ridiculous. I said John Harbaugh. Excuse me. I meant Jim. Excuse me. It's been a long day. Excuse me. Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach. I think he gets recruits, first of all, which is maybe the most important thing in college football. He gets recruits. That helps. He's not an offense or defensive-minded coach. He's just kind of there. And he is kind of there. He doesn't call any plays. I mean, the plays surely do run through him, but he's not shooting out ideas to, hey, run 2 split, 24 buster blast. That's just a made-up play, But we don't know. He's not running any plays. He used to run the offense. He used to run the pro-style offense with the fullback and the running back and the under-center look. But they then replaced him with Josh Gaddis, who's all shotgun right now, except for maybe the red zone. He's all shotgun, no huddle. But because football's changing. You're not seeing this huddle, especially in college. You're seeing it as well, maybe even in the pros. You're not seeing this huddle, go under center, run it right up the gut. You're not seeing that. You're going to see 40 passes a game coming up. Trust me, you're going to see it. It's changing. It's changing. Trust me on that. Michigan's a hit or miss. With defense coordinator Don Brown, I don't know. Let's talk about Don Brown. Am I a Don Brown fan? Yes. Am I a Don Brown fan in big games? Heck no. He had 2 weeks to prepare for maybe the best running back in all of college football, Jonathan Taylor. And what was the result? 203 yards for 3 touchdowns. He had 2 weeks to prepare, scheme, get his guys motivated, and prepare for Jonathan Taylor. And what do you get? 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. And may I say, he had a week to prepare for Ohio State with Dwayne Haskins and all those playmakers, J.K. Dobbins, Mike Weber. Paris Campbell, KJ Hill, Terry McLaurin. And what did happen? 62 points. He's never there for big games. I don't know if you could call Penn State a big game last year. I mean, we were obviously better than Penn State. You know that. I know that. That's a fact. But he wasn't ready for the Ohio State game, and Ohio State blew us out the stadium. Let's talk about Ohio State. I think Ohio State is legit. Legit. Like, definitely a top 3 team in college football. Legit. The defense is legit with the new 49ers defensive coordinator. I forget his name. Chase Young and Okudah anchoring the defense, as well as Zach Harrison anchoring the outside. Chase Young seems to get in the backfield every single play, causing havoc, and he's going to be a great pro. Okudah seems like the lockdown man. Ohio State's really good at, producing corners. Obviously, they have Marshawn Lattimore, Denzel Ward, Eli Apple. All those guys were really good in college. I mean, they're pretty good in the pros. But nonetheless, the point, they have an explosive offense with Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins, as well as KJ Hill. Shows if there's a year for Ohio State to do something, it's this year. No excuses. No excuses. I mean, you could say, if we had Urban Meyer, okay. Yeah, he retired. Get with it. And you're going to say, we're just lost because we were playing Clemson. Beat Clemson. UNC almost did it. They were a 2-point conversion away from beating Clemson. But they didn't. Their reward, getting beat by Clemson or Alabama. No one will beat these teams. These programs are too good and too talented, and their schedules are too good not to lose any games. Clemson's got a heck of a team. Dabo Swinney built a great program down there in Clemson. Great program. Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback Clemson will have. Alabama seems to get all the recruits. Nick Saban, you know what he's going to do. He's going to be in the playoffs every year and probably the national championship every year. No one's going to beat these teams. LSU, if there's also a year for you guys to win, it's this year. You've got your best QB in 15 years, in my opinion, in Joe Burrow, who came from Ohio State as a transfer. Go win. Go beat Alabama on the road. On the road. Versus Alabama in that hostile environment where you can barely hear the play call. Every single time. Every play. Every play. Can you deal with it? Also, let's talk about this LSU defense. I think it was 2 weeks ago, because this week they're on a bye, they let up 38 points to Vanderbilt. I know it's Vanderbilt, and they probably got most of their points in garbage time, but it puts up a bad reputation for the defense. For LSU to win that game, their quarterbacks got to play above average, got to play great, and their whole entire team has got to play the best game of their year that game. I think a good example of this is Ohio State and Michigan last year. Michigan, you could say Michigan was the better team last year. Ohio State just played better. They outplayed them. They outcoached them. Out-executed them in all ways. Special teams, offense, defense. All 3 stages of the game. Michigan was not prepared. So, LSU, I'm speaking to you. Anyone from the LSU program. If there's a year for you guys to do it, it's this year. It's this year, LSU. No more excuses from you guys either. I know you're saying, we're in the SEC. That's the hardest conference. Well, too bad, so sad. Too bad. Go win. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a minute here on the Steel Sports Podcast. And glad to have you back with us. So let's get into a little fantasy football waiver wire ads. Who I think you should add? I'm going to give you 5 guys, and if they're in your league, I think you should add them, especially because they have a lot of potential. Ronald Jones. I think he's a great player, obviously coming from USC. He received the most touches in that game, a polished, great back, has worked a lot on pass catching this year, and I think is going to take over Peyton Barber's spot over that number 1 receiver down there in Tampa Bay. Number 2, I'd say pick up Jordan Howard, but don't start him. Anyone could have one good game. Pick him up. He has a lot of potential. He scored 31 points this week in a PPR league. He's been playing very well lately, and I think he's getting more touches for, say, over Miles Sanders, but don't start him this week just because he had 31 points last week. Number 3, Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams is a running back for the Chiefs. It doesn't matter how many carries he gets throughout the games. He gets red zone carries, and that's all that matters for fantasy. Darrell Williams is a good option for the Chiefs, can catch the ball out of the backfield with Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill out. I think you look for Darrell Williams to take a bigger role in that offense, and I think he's not playing over LaShawn McCoy, but he's obviously pass catching over him and obviously getting red zone targets. Number 4, Courtland Sutton. He's another red zone target. Number 2 wide receivers to Emmanuel Sanders, who look like he lost a step with his torn Achilles. Look for Sutton to put up good numbers and maybe even a flex option if you deeply need it with the bye weeks all coming up. But Courtland Sutton, he's a good talent. He's big, and he's a red zone target, which is good for fantasy owners. Number 5, I'm going to give you 2 quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Jameis Winston. 2 QBs who put up a lot of points, not in a division where the defenses are great. Wouldn't say start these 2, but definitely a backup and maybe even trade bait if you think about it. So that's 5 guys I think you should pick up. If you don't want to, that's fine. But that's, in my opinion, 5 of the best waiver wire ads after week 4. Now, we're going to go into a new little segment where we're going to go through the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft and rate their performances out of 10 4 weeks into the season. So let's start with the number 1 pick from Oklahoma, Kyler Murray. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Now, he's still looking for that number 1 win. He's still learning the system. He's not given a lot of help down there in Arizona with the offensive line they've produced. He's getting better each week, which is all that matters. And I think eventually he'll be a good quarterback, but Arizona's in no rush. They're just waiting for the future and, trying to get their team best for the future. And I think they got maybe even a franchise QB in Kyler Murray because he fits Cliff Kingsbury's system very well. Nick Bosa, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. So he's had 1 sack. He seems to be disruptive, but he's been quiet lately. Obviously, he's been dealing with all the injuries. As you know, the Bosas are very injury prone, but I think he's a good talent, but I think he needs to produce a little bit more. He's, gone through some cold streaks, but look for Nick Bosa to have a great career. Quinnen Williams, I'm going to say this one is unavailable. He hasn't played a snap yet, so that's all I got to say. He's been on IR. I don't know if he's been on IR, but he's been hurt. But he's a beast. He's a beast when he's on the field. He is a total monster. He's a beast. And the number 4 pick, Clelin Ferrell. Now, I was a little surprised after this pick at first. I thought they had a better defensive end than Josh Allen right there, but I guess not. I guess Ferrell fits their system well. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. He's had 1 sack and 2 tackles for losses. It's still so early, and so many of these guys are unproven, but this is what I think now. Obviously, he can go out and have a great career, maybe even a Hall of Famer if he works hard. But we're going to move on to number 5, Devin White. It's also unavailable. He hasn't played all 4 games, so I can't evaluate him like that. So we're just going to give him an unavailable with Quinnen Williams. Number 6, everyone doubted this guy, and I loved him. I've been a Daniel Jones fan ever since he came out of Duke. And I'm not saying this because he's doing well now. You could go watch my sportscasters. I told you Daniel Jones would be good. All you guys laughing at him when he got picked 6 overall, it's the right pick. He's had 578 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He's 2-0 as a starter. He wins football games. Everyone doubted him. He has a chip on his shoulder. Go and shock the world, Daniel. I'd love for you to do it. Because it makes me look good for saying that you would do good. If that makes sense to anyone. Moving on, Josh Allen fell right into the Jaguars' laps, and my gosh, he did. I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. He's had 8 tackles and 2 sacks with 1 forced fumble. Again, he's very disruptive, explosive, and his motor's high. So he's a good talent down there in Jacksonville to work with. TJ Hawkinson, he's in concussion protocol, but I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. He had a great week 1, but sitting after week 4, he's had 11 receptions for 166 yards and 2 TDs. The thing that separates Hawkinson from the other tight ends in this draft is he's one of the best blockers I've ever seen coming out of the draft. I mean, forget Rob Gronkowski. Let's talk about TJ Hawkinson as a blocker. My goodness, can this guy block? And Iowa's producing very good tight ends. So if you're a tight end and you're a high school recruit, if Iowa gives you an offer, go to Iowa. Doesn't matter if you get that national championship. Number 9, Ed Oliver. I'm giving him a 5 out of 10. You know, he hasn't really done much. Did nothing against New England. I didn't really watch that game, but I could tell because no one touches Tom Brady these days. He could definitely turn it around. So now I'm giving him a 5 out of 10, but he's very disruptive. And I've heard since I was watching the game, Houston's game last year, he got in a little altercation with the coach. Apparently, he doesn't have the best of attitudes, but who cares? You know, he's a great talent, and I think he'll be good in the long run. Number 10, my Steelers picked Devin Bush. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. And he's had 37 total tackles, 1 sack. He's still developing in coverage, and he's also undersized, so that doesn't help a lot with coverage when he's covering tight ends and maybe even slot wide receivers. But he's a sideline-to-sideline thumper, and he's got a high motor, which I love about him. Number 11, Jonah Williams. I can't say anything because he's out for the year due to injury, but a good pick, safe pick, I'd say, because Steelers jumped the Bengals. And I think if Devin Bush would have slid to 11, I think the Bengals would have snagged him and gotten the steal of the draft. But luckily, my Pittsburgh Steelers traded up to get Devin Bush. Rashawn Gary, I'm giving him a 2 out of 10. He's had 1 tackle, and it was a sack. To his credit, though, he is rotating and not starting. So Rashawn Gary is another one of those freak athletes who still needs to produce on the field, coming in as a number 1 ranked defensive end in the class of 2016. And he's done fairly well at Michigan. They've developed very good defensive end down there with Chase Winovich, Brandon Graham, and all those guys. But, Rashawn Gary's just not there yet. But, he's not starting yet. So he's going to rotate in. He's going to beat out some of those guys. So I'm giving Christian Wilkins a 10 out of 10. He's had 9 tackles, especially with that struggling Miami Dolphins defense. He's a run stuffer. He reminds me of a Haloti Ngata or even a Casey Hampton if you want to go that far. Christian Wilkins, some say he was a steal to draft. Some say he could have been a top 5 pick to the Raiders. But he slid to the Dolphins, and they got themselves a very good steal, which they'll try to build around with 3 draft picks coming out in this 2020 draft. Number 14, the Atlanta Falcons picked Chris Lindstrom, the guard from Boston College. He's, again, not available, so I can't rate him. He's on IR. So, again, there's 3 players. So it's Devin White we can't rate, Quinnen Williams we can't rate, and Lindstrom we can't rate. So Lindstrom, he's on IR. I can't really rate him, but apparently he's pretty good because, good offensive linemen come out of Boston College usually. Number 15, Dwayne Haskins. This is one of the flashy picks to the Washington Redskins. I'm giving him a 2 out of 10. He played one game, and it was atrocious. It was hard to watch, especially imagining how bad it was to watch as a Redskins fan. He threw for 107 yards in the second half for 3 interceptions. He isn't ready to play. Putting him in a bad situation with that team and that offensive lineman and all those weapons is a bad situation, and it could be another Josh Rosen situation because I think Josh Rosen's a good talent, but he's putting in these bad situations like he was with Arizona and even now with Miami. And it can turn their career around. He isn't ready to play, so I don't know why they put him in. He can't move out the pocket. He's very unathletic. He ran 5.04 at the combine. And yet again, he laughed at Daniel Jones when Daniel Jones got picked 9 spots before him. He laughed at him, and look how Daniel Jones is doing now. So I'm laughing right at you, Dwayne Haskins. But moving on, number 16, the Panthers selected Brian Burns, defensive end at Florida State University. I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. He's gotten off to a very good start with 2.5 sacks, 9 tackles. He's a rotating player. He's not starting, as it solidified him as a starting defensive end on that Panthers roster. But he's playing well, and that's all you can ask for, especially from a rookie. Dexter Lawrence, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. He's had 3 tackles for 1 sack, but he's also on the Giants, so I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. You can't be a great defender on the Giants, with especially how their defense is struggling. So I'm giving him a 6 out of 10, and that's pretty reasonable if you ask me. Number 18, the Vikings snagged Garrett Bradbury, a center out of NC State, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. It's hard to judge a lineman. Your only one job is to protect the running back and even the quarterback. So he's got to protect Kirk Cousins at all costs, and I think he's doing an okay job at it. You can't really judge a lineman, so I give him a 7 out of 10. He's done pretty well. 19, the Tennessee Titans drafted Jeffrey Simmons, who could have been a top 5 pick yet if he didn't tear his ACL, so he hasn't played a snap yet. He's hurting out for the year, if I'm not mistaken. But he has a lot of potential when he comes back, but might lose a step due to that ACL tear. Number 20, the Denver Broncos drafted Noah Fant, a tight end out of Iowa. These Iowa teams keep producing great tight ends like George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, who we just talked about, and now even Noah Fant. And Noah Fant, I like to give him as a check down king. He's not going to hurt you in the threat game. He's very fast, but he loves Joe Flacco, especially loves those checkdowns. I'm giving him this pick an 8 out of 10. He's had 11 receptions for 130 yards and a touchdown and is on the track up. Number 21, Darnell Savage. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. He's had 15 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception. He's a ball hawker. He seems to be always around the ball. And whatever happened to 21 Savage? There was so much hype coming about that. But, we'll see. Andre Dillard, I don't know if this guy's hurt or not, but you can't really tell from offensive linemen. You just got to protect the quarterback and the running back at all costs. So I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. I think Jason Peters got hurt 2 weeks ago maybe, and he came in and did a pretty good job about it. Number 23, the Texans took Titus Howard, tackle from Alabama State. Again, you can't really tell with offensive linemen, but I can tell Titus Howard isn't doing his job. And I don't know if he's starting now, but he's getting a 5 out of 10. He isn't protecting Deshaun Watson one bit. It seems like he's running for his life. And this guy, at this rate, he's going to be out of the league in a couple more years because he's getting so beaten up. Number 24, the Raiders took Josh Jacobs. Knock on wood if you're with me. Josh Jacobs has gotten off to a fairly good start with 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's had 5 yards a carry, and he's a can-do everything type of back. Reminds me a little bit of Christian McCaffrey. It's just not that good as Christian McCaffrey just yet. Marquise Hollywood Brown went to the Ravens at number 25. I'm giving this guy a 10 out of 10. It seems like he's always the quickest guy in the field. He's had 18 receptions for 304 yards and 2 TDs. He's a splash play machine. So moving on to number 26. Montez Sweat. The Redskins actually traded up to this spot with the Indianapolis Colts to get Montez Sweat. And they saying it's a high-risk, high-reward play. So, he had a heart disease back in the draft process, which, his draft stock went down because of that. But he's gotten off to a fairly good start with 11 tackles and 1 sack, especially with that struggling Redskins defense. Number 27, it was Jonathan Abram. He was placed on IR, so again, that's unavailable. We'll move on to number 28, Jerry Tillery. I give him a 3 out of 10. He's had 1 tackle and 0.5 sack. He doesn't see the field a lot. He's more of a role player, but he's still young. He's still developing. And number 29, LJ Collier with the Seahawks. He's had 1 tackle with no sacks. And I don't know if he plays a lot. I haven't watched a lot of Seahawks games this year. And number 30, the Giants traded up for their 3rd pick in the first round. I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. His name is DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia. He's had 10 tackles. He's still developing. Didn't have the best process coming up to the draft. He didn't have the best combine. That his draft stock really fell because of that. But he's raw. He's a great player, and he's going to press coverage you. If you don't like it, then who knows? Number 31, the Falcons then traded up again to get another tackle, Caleb McGarry. He had a heart procedure in the offseason. And again, I'm going to say it. You can't tell it because he's an O-lineman. He hasn't heard much about him. He's raw, very raw in the passing game now. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 there. Can't really tell with offensive linemen again. N'Keal Harry is number 32 to the Patriots. He hasn't played a snap yet, so it's unknown basically. So that's going to wrap it up for my review of the first round. And we're going to take a quick break here. And we're going to return with grades for the NFL season and hot takes at the end. Here at the top of the hour at the Steel City Sports Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Steel City Sports Podcast. And on this segment, we're going to do team grades through week 4. We're going to start off with the Patriots. I'm going to give them an A. I don't need to explain much on this one. Patriots arguably the best team in the NFL. And the reason I'm giving them an A and not an A+, as I was talking them so high, is their quarterback situation. Obviously, they have the best quarterback of all time. I don't want to argue with that. I'm a Steelers fan, and I can admit that. Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time, then said. But he's 42 years old, and he's not getting better. But I think he's fine where he is right now. And we'll move on to the Bills. The Bills get a B through the first 4 weeks. And I know you're saying, oh, they're 3-1. Aren't they deserve a higher grade? It's because they had their chance versus the Patriots, and I guess they played okay, but they didn't play great. They put up 10 points. Josh Allen's in the concussion protocol, and he might miss this week, so that leaves Matt Barkley to fill in as their quarterback. The Jets are getting a D-. Not a lot of talent in that Jets team. They're still developing Sam Darnold. But for now, they get a D-. I don't know if Le'Veon Bell made the best situation. The Dolphins are going to get an F. The Dolphins are arguably the worst team in the NFL, which they've been blown out all their games. But they might have a new quarterback if they tank for Tua, basically. But I don't know if Tua will be the next best pro. But I think he'll definitely benefit this Dolphins offense, which is in need for it. Number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm giving them an A+. Obviously, the reason you think they got an A+ is because they're explosive offense with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and all those guys. And you're right. They are a very good offense, very explosive. And I think this is going to be a team to beat in the AFC. We're going to go to the Raiders now. I'm giving them a B minus. Surprisingly, they won this week. Knock on wood if you're with me. But they moved their record to 2-2. They're kind of in no man's land right now for the Chiefs in their division. The only spot they're fighting for is a wild card spot, and it's going to be tough with all these AFC teams coming in. So the Chargers, I'm going to give them a B. Wasn't that impressed from the Chargers this year. Obviously, with all the Melvin Gordon holdout stuff, he's back now. So maybe it will benefit them in the long run, but they got a heck of a back in Eckler. They got maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL in Keenan Allen. They got a 39-year-old quarterback who can't really move out the pocket, though, and Phillip Rivers, who's maybe holding this Chargers team back from a Super Bowl run. So they're going to get a B. They're kind of in no man's land as well with the Raiders. The Broncos, I'm going to give them the D minus. The Broncos have started 0-4 for the first time since 2000, I think. But Joe Flacco isn't the answer. I'm kind of waiting for them to turn it over to the rookie Drew Lock. He saw a lot of snaps down there in Missouri, a 4-year starter, and I don't get why he's not ready for the pros, but Dwayne Haskins is a 1-year starter at Ohio State. I don't get that to me. Maybe Drew Lock doesn't have the traits as Haskins. Yeah, probably right, but he's played more than him. But we're going to move on to the AFC North. The Browns get a C+ and a rising. The Browns just got a huge AFC North divisional win versus the Ravens this week. Now, the Browns are still kind of a 50-50 hit or miss, in my opinion. All that talent in that locker room won't produce to wins. You got to have leadership. And when you have Baker Mayfield, a leader, calling out Daniel Jones before the year, when he hasn't even played a snap, calling him that he shouldn't be the sixth pick, you got problems in your locker room, and I don't think Freddie Kitchens is holding them accountable for some reason. We're going to move on to the Ravens. The Ravens get a B minus. Obviously, they're 2-2. They got off to a very hot start in 2-0. They played well against the Chiefs, but they did not look good against the Browns, and they're going down because of that. The offense maybe not as good, because maybe they found the right scheme from Lamar Jackson. But let's give the Steelers a C. The Steelers arguably had their 3 toughest games in the Patriots, Seahawks, and 49ers. Now they kind of got a confidence booster last night with the win versus the Bengals. I think it will be key for the Steelers, get Mason Rudolph going. But I think don't rule out the Steelers this week, even that they are a 1-3 team. And we're going to move on to the worst team in that division, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have played tough these first couple games. They got blown out by the 49ers at home, but they played the Bills tough, who just played the Patriots tough. So the Bengals aren't that bad after all, but they just got to protect Andy Dalton, and they really need A.J. Green back. They really need him back. So the Bengals get a D. The Texans get a C+, and I'm a little disappointed in the Texans this year. Obviously, coming in last year, they lost versus the Colts in the wild card weekend. But we're all talking about, Deshaun Watson, it's his coming out year. He's going to do great, and he's at 2-2. Luckily, that whole division is at 2-2, so any team can win that division. We'll go to another team in that division, Indianapolis Colts. I'm giving them a B+. Not many people thought that the Colts would be at 2-2 at this situation, especially with Andrew Luck going down. So I think it's a big confidence booster for this team. They're in it, and they know it. And the Jaguars are also in it with their new star quarterback. Well, I wouldn't say star. He's gotten off to a fairly good start, but I don't say star yet. Gardner Minshew could be the next Baker Mayfield. He's got an attitude. He's cocky, but he's winning games down there in Jacksonville. He's now 2-1 as a starter because he didn't play the first half of the Chiefs game in week 1. But the Titans, I'm going to give the Titans a B- because they beat the Browns week 1, which really felt good for a Steelers fan perspective. And I guess as a Titans fan perspective, but they got a defense. They've got a very good defense. It's just their offense has got so many question marks in it with Marcus Mariota and all those guys. But let's move on to the NFC. We're going to go with the Cowboys here. I'm giving them a B+. The Cowboys just came off a struggling win versus the Saints on Sunday Night Football. They didn't play their best game. Dak Prescott didn't play that well. But I don't see this team, going downward after one loss. So don't rule the Cowboys out. They're still in a really good shot, and they're leading that division. The Eagles, I'm giving them a B. I was expecting a little more from the Eagles. I mean, they lost home versus the Lions. The Redskins played them tough. They went out and got a statement win versus the Packers, but now they're all banged up on defense. So we don't know what we're going to get from this Eagles team. We know what they're going to get from the offense and all those playmakers. But Deshaun Jackson, should be back soon. So that's going to help out Carson Wentz a lot. Let's move to the Giants. I'm giving the Giants a B. The Giants obviously started 0-2. You lose Saquon for about 4 or 5 weeks. And you go 2-0 with rookie quarterback Daniel Jones. He's done a heck of a job. And I think the Giants have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs this year, even as a wildcard team, or even as a division winner, if these Cowboys cannot keep it up and the Eagles cannot keep it up. But I'm going to give the Redskins a F, FFF for these Redskins. They haven't done that well. I mean, they played the Eagles tough week 1. But when you turn to Dwayne Haskins in that type of situation, you got problems, and your coach and your management will be fired after all of this year. Moving on to another division, the 49ers, I'm giving them an A-. The 49ers are a pretty good team, but they haven't seen a lot. They're still very inexperienced. They got a young head coach. They got a young quarterback who hasn't played in a playoff game. He's watched Tom Brady play in a playoff game and won 2 Super Bowls with Tom Brady. Or maybe it was 3. I don't know. But still very inexperienced, but a good team. Good start. 3-0 on the year. Just had a bye week this week. Seahawks, I'm giving them a B++. Seahawks are 3-1. I couldn't give them an A- on this one, but I couldn't just leave them with a B or a B+. So I'm just going to give them B++. You know what you're going to get from Russell Wilson, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and they just acquired Jadeveon Clowney, who's a great defensive end. He's causing havoc down there in that division. But Seahawks got a good team, and look for them to continue this success. The Rams, I've given them an A-. The Rams, I would have given them an A+ if they would have took care of business versus Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers come storming into LA and steal one from the Bears, 54-50. Very surprised on that. Sean McVay and Wade Phillips did not look like they had their defense prepared for that one. They just came out and directly got punched in the mouth, and they got to figure out something. Clearly, the offense is working with Jared Goff, but he's a little inconsistent, and they got Todd Gurley back, and he looks healthy for say that, but I'm going to knock on wood for that one for all Todd Gurley fantasy owners there. I'm sorry if I just jinxed your year. The Cardinals, I'm giving them a C-, with new quarterback and new coach, Kyler Murray. You're going to have to learn a whole new system, and they got off to a pretty good start. Could have won week 1, which that could have changed their season overall. But they're still getting better. Their defense is atrocious. I don't know who their defense coordinator is. They need Patrick Peterson back. Their defense is atrocious. They're very bad at tackling. It's horrible what they're building down there in Arizona, especially on the defensive side. But the offensive side is golden with number 1 overall pick, Kyler Murray. He fits Cliff Kingsbury's system well, and I think he's going to cause havoc in this league. Packers, I'm giving them an A. They just lost against the Eagles, but the Eagles are a relatively good team. So don't worry, Packers fans. You still got number 12, Aaron Rodgers back there, who we know what he can do when it comes to playoff time. He's going to, Packers will likely win this division with Mitch Trubisky going down. And I don't see the Lions just winning that division and then the Vikings having all struggles. But let's move on to the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky is hurt with the shoulder. I don't know what it is. Shoulder discomfort, I would say. Because I don't know if he hurt obviously it popped out. His shoulder popped out. He's got to pop back in. He may miss some time. But Chase Daniel is a relatively good backup. So don't worry, Bears. You still got the best defense in the league. Lions, I'm giving them a B+. And not because they're only, they're 2-1-1. Not only because of that record, it's because they exceeded all expectations. Everyone thought the Lions would be a top 10 pick this year. They've come out and they've gotten off to a 2-1 record, and it's really impressed me in all of the league. The Vikings, I'm giving them a C- because of their expectations. They can't get their playmakers the ball for some reason. Kirk Cousins is taking too much time in the pocket, and defenses are collapsing on him, sacking him almost every play. So Vikings got to get something fixed, and they're all frustrated down there in Minnesota. The Saints, I'm giving the Saints an A+, especially because when Drew Brees went down, most teams were ruling out the Saints, but Teddy Bridgewater came in, and he's done a good job. The thing about Teddy Bridgewater is he wants to control the time of possession. He wants to have his hands on the ball and just run the football over and over again. He likes to eat up clock, and I think it's working. Obviously, they held Dak Prescott an explosive offense with new offense coordinator Kellen Moore to only 10 points, which is very impressive if you ask me. So I'm giving them an A+. The Bucks, get an A-. I think they've gotten off to – they could be 3-1. Think about it. Because if Matt Gay didn't miss that field goal versus the Giants, it could be 3-1 easily and looking very good, tied with the Saints in that division. So the Bucks, I think they're going to be a wild card team this year. A wild card team for sure. The Panthers, I'm giving them a B-. Not a lot of great. They played Arizona, and I forget who the team was before. I'm blanking here, but nonetheless, the point is, the Panthers, I don't think you should get too excited about them. I mean, they got their best player, arguably in their league, and Christian McCaffrey is a playmaker. You got to get him the ball in space. And Cam Newton, the injury-prone quarterback, is struggling with injuries down there. And Kyle Allen, maybe Cam Newton's successor, is doing okay for himself. And this came into my mind. They beat Arizona Cardinals, and then they beat the Texans. So the Falcons, I'm giving them a C-. The Falcons, they were in perfect shape. They got off to a little shaky start in week 1, lost that game. But week 2, they beat the Eagles at home, back to 1-1. And everyone but the Panthers, I think, in that division was all 1-1. So they were relatively tied for first place at that point. But they just completely crashed. And I'm pointing fingers at Dan Quinn. I think he's going to be one of those surprise coaches that will be fired this year. So look for the Falcons to have another disappointing year. And I'm going to give you about 7 hot takes, and I'm going to explain them all. Number 1, Jameis Winston will be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Jameis Winston, if he's available in your league, you should go get him. He's a great talent. That offense is explosive with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, as well as O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, all those guys. But they just put up 54 points against the Rams, which is a very good defense. But let's get into hot take number 2. The Lions will be a wild card team. I think this will be a fact. They got the new head coach, last year new head coach, Matt Patricia. He's controlling the defense. Matthew Stafford is always very consistent. So I think that the Lions will be a wild card team, but will lose that wild card game. Number 3, all rookie QBs who were drafted in first 2 rounds will start 1 game this year. Kyler Murray's already started. Daniel Jones has already started. Haskins will likely start this week, which I don't think is the best move. I think that's a little dumb. Drew Lock, I think he will eventually start, but I just don't see John Elway going to a rookie QB. The Broncos are known for washed-up QBs. Case Keenum. I guess not Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's an all-time legend. Joe Flacco came over from Baltimore. Got a new contract. No, he didn't get a new contract, but he's done relatively bad. So look for Drew Lock to start in the upcoming games. Another hot take is Cam Newton will not get an extension when his contract will be expired. I think Cam Newton might be the most overrated player in the league. I don't think he's that good. He's built like he's like 6'6", 260 or something. The guy is huge, but he just cannot produce it on the field. Number 5, I have Clemson loses before the national championship. I know you're calling me crazy, but this could be another Pitt situation, guys. As you know, Pitt came in and spoiled Clemson's undefeated season. It could happen again very easily. They dodged a bullet there, almost losing to UNC. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're kidding, right? UNC. Maybe for basketball, college basketball, but I wouldn't say football. Come on now. Number 6. I think Urban Meyer will come out of retirement to coach USC or UCLA. Two programs are in need of head coaches immediately. Chip Kelly has not gotten the job done. And I think Urban Meyer, he's kind of getting sick of football, He said he retired to, be with the family, but he then, 2 weeks later, he got a job with Fox Sports doing all those games. He's sick of it. He just wants to be out there so bad, but I think his health will pull back. But who knows? And my last hot take is Jason Garrett will be fired week 8. I don't think Jason, if you're calling Mike Tomlin a cheerleader, at least he says stuff in the headset. I don't think I've ever seen Jason Garrett said stuff in the headset. All I've seen is him chewing his, bubble gum, just being a complete cheerleader for that team. But that's going to do it, folks. Thank you so much for hearing my first podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Steel City Sports, at Steel City Sport 4. Go follow us on there to keep up with Pittsburgh news and all that stuff. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will have a podcast. Here's my schedule. I'm going to have a podcast Tuesday to review the games like I just did today and go into hot takes and all that stuff. And I'm going to go Thursday to preview all the games and give my game predictions and all that stuff. And maybe Sunday with my partner, Charlie Stafford, who will have his podcast soon. We live kind of far away from each other, if you didn't know. Charlie is my cousin. We've been best friends since I can remember. Growing up together, we've always wanted to be sports announcers, have our own podcast, and I think we're getting off to a pretty good start with this on Anchor. So thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.